A scientist watched a cloud of blood spread through the Caribbean and assumed something was being killed. He got the drones up anyway. Then a small tail broke the surface, and the animal attached to it weighed a ton, could not swim, and was about to sink into water a mile deep. The whales gave it away before the blood did. Sperm whale families spread out. They are deep divers, hunting squid 1 kilometer down, and they space themselves across kilometers of ocean to cover more ground. That is what a normal day looks like. 11 animals scattered across the horizon, surfacing at different times, mostly out of sight of each other. That morning, they were stacked together at the surface, heads inward, barely moving. Shane Giro has been following this exact family for over 2 decades. He knows them individually, by the shape of their flukes, by their scars, by name. The unit is called Unit A. 11 whales, 10 females, and 1 adolescent male hanging around the edges. Every single one of them was oriented toward the same animal. Her name is Rounder. Giro has known her since she was a calf. He has been watching her since 2005. She is at least 19 years old, and she had a calf before, a daughter named Accra, born years earlier. Accra was there that morning. So was Rounder's mother, a whale named Lady Oracle. 3 generations of the same family in the water at once, waiting. Then Rounder released a gush of dark blood. The team's first read was violence. That's what blood usually means out there. They launched 2 drones and dropped a hydrophone for that reason. What they got instead was 5 hours and 22 minutes of the most detailed record of a whale birth ever captured, and the first hard evidence of a behavior nobody had proven outside of humans and a handful of primates. Then Rounder did something that still doesn't have a clean explanation. As the calf's flukes emerged, she rolled her body deliberately, precisely, until the delivery was pointed straight up at the hovering cameras. Make of that what you will. The scientists have been careful about it, and they should be. Reading intention into an animal's movement is how you get bad science. There are plenty of mundane explanations. Whales roll during labor. Positioning at the surface serves obvious practical purposes when you need to breathe and you're in the middle of a delivery. But it's worth noting what she was rolling in front of. Not strangers. A boat and a team that had been part of the background of her environment since she was a juvenile. The same vessel, the same people, showing up in her water for 18 years without ever doing anything to her. The footage exists because a whale turned over at exactly the right moment. That's all anyone can say for certain. Strange thing. Number 1. The calf comes out backwards. Every land mammal you can name is born head first. That's the default across the entire class. Sperm whales come out tail first. Flukes first, head last, backwards. The reason is grim once you sit with it. This animal is being born underwater and it breathes air. Picture a head-first delivery in the ocean. The calf's blowhole clears its mother's body while the rest of it, torso, flukes, everything is still inside her, still connected, still undelivered, unable to move. A newborn mammal's first instinct is to breathe. It would inhale seawater while trapped halfway out of its mother. It would drown before it finished being born. Tail first fixes that. The flukes come out first and get a chance to unfurl from the folded position they've been packed in for over a year. The blowhole stays inside, protected, still on umbilical oxygen until the final second. The head, which carries the airway, exits last. So the entire orientation of birth in this species is reversed, and it's reversed because the normal way would kill every calf it produced. That's the baseline. It gets stranger. Strange thing number 2. The labor has attendants. The delivery took 34 minutes from the first appearance of the flukes to completion. During those 34 minutes, the other adult females did not hold back and watch. The researchers described them diving underneath Rounder's dorsal fin, frequently upside down, on their backs, with their heads oriented toward her genital slit. Read that again. Adult whales positioning themselves deliberately beneath a laboring female, facing the birth canal in open water for the duration of the delivery. That's not proximity, that's attendance. To appreciate how little we knew about this before, consider the record. Across roughly 50 years of people studying sperm whales, there was exactly one published scientific report of a birth, observed after the fact, from a distance. Fewer than 10% of all cetacean species have ever had a birth documented in the wild at all. These animals live far offshore in deep water and spend most of their lives below the surface. A birth lasts under an hour. To record one, you have to be in the right patch of open ocean on the right morning with the equipment already running, watching the right animal. Which is why the team that got it was the team that had spent 20 years watching the same 11 whales. It's worth understanding what studying sperm whales actually involves because it explains why this took so long. These are the deepest diving mammals on the planet. A foraging female disappears for 45 minutes at a stretch, a kilometer down, in total darkness. When she surfaces, she's visible for a few minutes. A low black island, a spout, and then she's gone again. Most of the life of this species happens somewhere no human can follow, in an environment where light doesn't reach and cameras don't work. So the entire science is built out of fragments. Minutes at the surface stitched together across years. Photographs of fluke edges cataloged and compared so you can tell one whale from another the way you'd recognize a face. Acoustic recordings of clicks whose source you never see. Giro has been doing that off Dominica since 2005. 2 decades of surfacing intervals assembled into knowledge of who's related to whom, who travels with whom, which unit belongs to which clan. Which also means the researchers weren't watching a whale that morning. They were watching a whale they knew, one they'd first met when she was a calf herself. Strange thing. Number 3. The newborn is enormous. Sperm whale gestation runs 14 to 16 months. Among the longest of any mammal on Earth, a year and a half of pregnancy for a single calf. What comes out is not small. A newborn sperm whale is about 4 meters long, 13 feet. It weighs roughly a ton. Sit with that. An animal that has never taken a breath is longer than most cars and heavier than an adult polar bear. At birth, it already exceeds the adult body size of the overwhelming majority of species on this planet. That's the baby, and a mother carries it internally for 16 months. Strange thing number 4. It has 60 seconds to do something it has never done. The birth completed. About a minute later, the newborn surfaced next to its mother's head and took its first observed breath. The umbilical cord was still attached. That minute is the narrowest window in this entire story. This animal has been receiving oxygen through a cord for 16 months. It has never used its lungs. And within roughly 60 seconds of leaving its mother's body, it has to get its blowhole above the surface of the Caribbean and breathe, an action it has never performed with an organ it has never used. Nobody teaches it. There's no practice run. There's one attempt. It cannot get into position on its own because of what happens next. Strange thing number 5. The calf sinks, not struggles to stay afloat. Sinks. A newborn sperm whale is negatively buoyant, denser than the water around it. Release it and it goes down immediately, like a dropped stone. David Gruber, who leads Project SETI, put it about as bluntly as it can be put. You are giving birth to a rock in the middle of an ocean that is a mile deep. And a mile deep is not a figure of speech in these waters. The seafloor off Dominica's western coast drops away almost immediately. This is a volcanic island, and the shelf around it is narrow. Sperm whales come in close to shore precisely because the deep water is right there. Which means the birth happened over an abyss with no bottom within any meaningful reach. If that calf had gone down, nobody was following it. Most people assume the sinking is a muscle problem. The calf just isn't strong enough yet. That's part of it. Its flukes are still folded and its muscles aren't ready for open water. But the real mechanism is specific to this species, and almost nobody knows it. An adult sperm whale carries an enormous oil-filled organ in its head, the spermaceti organ. It's the structure the animal is named for, and it's the reason whalers hunted this species to the edge of extinction. That oil burned cleaner than anything else available in the 19th century. Among its functions, that mass plays a role in buoyancy. A newborn doesn't have it. Not developed, not functional. So the calf arrives missing the one piece of equipment that would let it hold position in the water. 1 ton of air-breathing mammal in an ocean with no floor within reach, with folded flukes, unable to swim, denser than seawater. It's worth noting how unusual that is even among whales. Plenty of cetacean calves are born weak and need a nudge toward the surface for a first breath. That's fairly standard. But most of them float. A newborn dolphin, a beluga, a humpback, clumsy and uncoordinated, but the water holds them up while they figure it out. The sperm whale doesn't get that grace period. Its default state is descending. That's the difference between needing a hand and needing a crew. A sperm whale mother physically cannot keep a 1-ton sinking calf at the surface by herself for hours, while also recovering from a 34-minute delivery. Which means sperm whale birth cannot be a private event. The newborn survival depends entirely on other animals being there and doing something about it within the first minute of its life. That's not a nice social bonus. That's load bearing. Remove the group and this species does not reproduce. Strange thing. Number 6. They hoisted it for hours. The moment the calf came free, the researchers wrote, the unit's behavior changed rapidly. Every member became active at once. Within a minute, the surrounding whales clustered underneath the newborn and lifted it onto their heads and backs so it could breathe. They describe adults squeezing the calf's body between theirs, touching it with their heads, pointing their noses toward it, pushing it around under the water and onto and across their bodies above the surface. They were physically moving a 1-ton animal, lifting it, passing it between them. They kept doing it for roughly 3 hours, in rotation. One whale would support the calf, peel away, and another would move into position. Try to picture the mechanics because the scale is easy to lose. These are animals weighing 15 to 20 tons apiece. They have no hands. They cannot grip anything. Every act of support across those 3 hours was performed with a head, a back, a flank, pressing a 1-ton body upward using the only tools available in moving water without crushing it. Think about the precision that requires. Too little pressure and the calf slips off and starts descending. Too much and you've injured a newborn with a body part that weighs more than a car. In open ocean, with swell moving everything. While other whales are doing the same thing from other angles. They did it for 3 hours without dropping it. A female family member led the initial assistance. Then, once the calf was born, each whale took a turn. That last detail is the one that turned this from remarkable footage into a paper in Science. Strange thing number 7. Half of them weren't family. Sperm whale society is matrilineal. Units are built around related females, grandmothers, mothers, sisters, daughters. That's been known for decades. But Unit A is not one family. It contains 2 distinct matrilines with no genetic relationship to each other. Here's the part that matters. Under normal conditions, those 2 matrilines keep their distance. They forage separately. They maintain a degree of social separation even while traveling in the same general group. They coexist without mixing. As rounders' calves' flukes began to emerge, the researchers said those boundaries dissolved. Half of the whales attending the birth were not related to rounder. The team ran the drone footage through computer vision and multi-scale network analysis. tracking the movement of every individual whale moment by moment and quantifying exactly who did what. And the unrelated animals weren't hovering at the margins. They were participating. This is the first quantitative evidence of cooperative birth assistance outside of primates. That's the sentence that matters. Not whales are social, we knew that. This is unrelated adults crossing a social boundary they normally maintain, and then taking turns doing the physical labor of keeping someone else's newborn alive. We have words for that in our own species: midwife, doula. In every human culture, birth involves people who are not the mother, and frequently not family at all. It's been treated as one of the more distinctly human arrangements. It isn't. The standard evolutionary explanation for animals helping each other is kin selection. You help relatives because they carry your genes. That explanation doesn't work here. Half the helpers didn't carry Rounder's genes and helped for hours anyway. Alam Malouf, the machine learning researcher who led the science paper, put the implication plainly. Their social bonds are built on something more than close familial ties. Jiro's version is the one I keep coming back to. The behavior they documented, he said, reflects a complex cooperative society that can't be explained just by, oh, you're related. Something richer is running underneath it, a society where the expectation is, I will help you, so you will help me. Two smaller details from the analysis are worth knowing because they're oddly familiar. Rounder's older daughter, Akra, was among the most involved animals present. And the single adolescent male in the unit was the least involved participant there, hovering at the periphery, largely not helping. Make of that what you will. Strange thing. Number 8. They posted guards. While all this was happening, the birth attracted an audience. A pod of pilot whales arrived. So did a large group of Fraser's dolphins. Pilot whales are not harmless neighbors here. In Dominican waters, harassment of sperm whales by pilot whale pods is relatively common, the working theory being that the two species compete for the same primary food source, diamondback squid. And there was a newborn in the water that couldn't swim, couldn't dive, and couldn't defend itself. An ocean full of blood is not a subtle signal. The adults maneuvered to shield the calf, blocking the intruders and holding them at distance until they left. That instinct has a formal name in this species, and it tells you how seriously they take threats to their young. It's called the Marguerite Formation, named after the French word for daisy because of what it looks like from above. When a unit is threatened, the adults arrange themselves in a circle with heads pointed inward and tails facing out, calves sealed in the middle. Then they use those tails as weapons. The formation exists primarily because of orcas. Adult male sperm whales are rarely attacked. Too large, too solitary. Predation focuses almost entirely on calves, juveniles, and injured animals. And orcapods hunt cooperatively, working to separate a mother from her calf or pull a single whale out of the group. Here's the detail from those documented attacks that stays with me. When orcas succeeded in dragging an individual out of the circle, researchers watched one or two sperm whales deliberately leave the safety of the formation, exposing themselves to attack, to flank the isolated animal and escort it back in. They break formation to go get whoever got taken. That's the same instinct as the birth, scaled up. When one animal is in trouble, others move toward the trouble rather than away from it, at cost to themselves. So in a single morning, these animals functioned as midwives during the delivery, lifeguards holding a sinking calf at the surface, and bodyguards against potential threats simultaneously coordinated across two families that normally keep their distance. Strange thing. Number 9. They changed how they were talking. The hydrophone ran the whole time. When the researchers analyzed the audio, they found distinct shifts in vocal style at the key moments of the birth. The whales didn't just get louder. The character of what they were producing changed, and those changes lined up with specific events in the delivery. To understand why that matters, you need some context on how sperm whales communicate, And this is where the strangeness stops being about biology and starts edging towards something like language. Sperm whales talk in clicks, patterned bursts called codas. Project SETI has published work showing these codas function something like a phonetic alphabet. The whales combine them contextually, modify them with rhythm and tempo, add extra clicks, and vary the timing expressively. Mix those features and you get thousands of possible combinations. Then, a team led by Berkeley linguist Gasper Begas found something more specific. Elements within sperm whale codas function in a way that parallels human vowels, not metaphorically, structurally. Different coda types have consistent duration patterns, some naturally longer, some with short and long variants. Individual whales have their own timing signatures, and when a whale moves from one coda into the next, the first click of the new sound sometimes takes on the quality of the sound before or after it. That's exactly what human speech does. It's why the N in the word input shifts because of the PE that follows it. Linguists call it co-articulation. In whales, layer on the social structure and it gets more familiar still. Clans in different regions speak different dialects. The Dominican whales belong to a clan that is culturally distinct from others, with its own pattern of clicks. Each clan has a unique coda that identifies it. Every calf has to learn its clan's codas, and infants babble for a couple of years before they start clicking meaningfully. Whale babies babble for years before they can speak properly. So when researchers report that vocal style shifted during the birth, they're describing animals with a genuinely complex communication system, changing how they spoke during a coordinated group task. We don't know what was said, that's the honest limit. But something was being communicated in a system with dialects, individual signatures, and structural features resembling the building blocks of speech. There's a piece of hardware behind all of this that's easy to overlook. The sperm whale has the largest brain of any animal that has ever lived. Not the largest alive, the largest in the history of the planet. Around 8 kilograms, roughly 6 times the mass of a human brain. Whatever that brain is for, it isn't just navigation. Why any of this is true, every abnormality on this list traces back to one fact. These are mammals that went back into the ocean. Cetaceans are the only mammals whose ancestors left the water, adapted fully to land, and then returned. Every strange thing about sperm whale birth is a workaround for that history. The backwards delivery is a fix for a lung-breathing animal being born underwater. The sinking newborn is a land mammal's body plan dropped into an environment with no floor. The obligatory group care exists because those two problems together make solo birth impossible. Researchers estimate this cooperative behavior could date back more than 36 million years to the early stages of that return to the sea, which means whales may have been assisting each other's births since long before anything resembling a human existed. That's not whales copying us. If anything, it's the reverse. Cooperative birth attendance appears to be an ancient solution that evolution arrived at independently. In a completely different lineage, tens of millions of years before our species turned up and assumed we'd invented it. What happens after the birth? The delivery is the beginning of the problem, not the end of it. Because a sperm whale calf cannot follow its mother to work. An adult female hunts squid at depths approaching 1 kilometer on dives that can last the better part of an hour. A calf can't do that. It can't hold its breath long enough. It can't handle the pressure, and its diving physiology takes years to develop. So every time the mother goes down to eat, she leaves a helpless animal alone at the surface in open ocean with pilot whales and orcas and sharks in the neighborhood. The solution is babysitting, and it's systematic. Biologists call it alloparenting. Individuals other than the mother stay with the calf while she forages. Units stagger their dives so somebody is always up top. Researchers studying dive synchrony found groups actively coordinating this, the entire point being that the calf is never left alone. It goes further than supervision. There's evidence female sperm whales will nurse calves that aren't their own, allonursing. calves have been observed attempting to suckle from multiple females in their unit. And in at least one well-studied group, most of the nursing came from a handful of females acting as primary caregivers, including juveniles only a few years older than the calves they were minding. Nursing itself doesn't work the way you'd picture either. There's no exposed nipple. It is retracted inside a slit in the mother's body. The calf approaches, bumps the slit to stimulate her, rolls onto its back, and pushes its lower jaw into the opening to bring the nipple out. Then it works its tongue around the nipple to draw milk. It's a specific learned procedure that looks nothing like any mammal on land. That lasts about 2 years as a primary food source. But researchers have found milk in the stomachs of juvenile sperm whales as old as 13, animals hunting and eating solid prey, still occasionally nursing. Now put the reproductive cycle together: 16 months pregnant, 2 years or more of nursing, then 3 to 6 years before the next calf. Run that across a lifetime, and a female may produce fewer than 10 offspring, possibly far fewer, which explains everything you just watched. When your species reproduces that slowly, and every newborn arrives at a ton and immediately starts sinking, you cannot afford to lose one. The math forces cooperation. The society this builds. That math has produced one of the strangest social systems in the animal kingdom, and it explains why unrelated whales were in the water at all. Sperm whale society splits along sex lines permanently. Females stay. A female is born into her mother's unit and will very likely spend her entire life in it, decades, with the same small group: grandmothers, mothers, sisters, daughters, in one continuous thread that outlasts individuals. Which is exactly what the drone captured: Lady Oracle, Rounder, and Accra. 3 generations of the same line in the water together. Males leave. Around adolescence, a young male gradually separates and heads for colder, higher latitude water. He may never return. Adult males live largely alone or in loose bachelor groups, thousands of kilometers from the tropical waters, where females and calves stay year-round. That's why the one male present was the least involved animal there. He was an adolescent, already at the edge of a society he was about to exit permanently. It's also why the female units matter so much. If you're a female sperm whale, the animals around you today are likely the same animals around you in 30 years. Jiro's phrasing, "I will help you, so you will help me," only works if you'll still be there to collect. The honest limit. I want to be straight about the caveat, because the scientists were. This is one birth, a single observed event, one unit, one location. The researchers say it directly. You can't generalize from a single case. Other marine biologists have echoed it. Remarkable data. But confirming this cooperation is typical means seeing it again. One researcher described capturing that event with a drone as essentially winning the lottery. So this is a single, extraordinarily detailed data point, not a settled conclusion. That's how good science works, and it's worth saying plainly. But there's reason to think it wasn't a fluke, and it comes from what was already known. Sperm whales were documented practicing alloparenting decades ago. What this footage shows is that the system doesn't switch on after birth. It's already running during the birth, in the first 34 minutes, at a level of coordination nobody had ever measured. Gruber called it radical collaboration. That's about right, the coda. There's a coda to this, and I mean that in both senses. After the birth, Unit A vanished. That's normal. These are animals ranging across open ocean, and a research team on a small boat can go a very long time without finding one specific family again. More than a year passed with no sighting. Then the whales turned up, and the calf was with them, alive, over a year old, swimming alongside Accra and Aurora, 2 of the young females who had been in the water on the day it was born. It worked. The whole improbable arrangement, the backwards delivery, the sinking newborn, the 60-second window, the unrelated helpers, 3 hours of hoisting a ton of animal to the surface, The guards holding off the pilot whales produced a living whale that was still there a year later. There's a version of this story that's just a nice fact about whales. I don't think that's what it is. What the footage shows is a species that solved an impossible problem the only way it could be solved. Take an air-breathing mammal, put it back in an ocean with no floor. Give it a newborn that weighs a ton and sinks. Make that newborn so expensive, 16 months of pregnancy, years of nursing, fewer than 10 in a lifetime, that losing one is close to catastrophic. There's no anatomical fix for that. You can't evolve a floating baby fast enough. What you can evolve is a society where somebody else is always there, and where the somebody else doesn't have to be your sister. That's the actual finding. Not that whales are nice. That cooperation between unrelated individuals, the thing we tend to treat as a human achievement requiring language and culture and contracts, turns out to be an old solution another mammal reached independently, in the dark, in the water, tens of millions of years before we existed. Nothing about how sperm whales give birth is normal, because nothing about their situation is normal. They're air-breathing land mammals that return to an ocean with no bottom, carrying a body plan that doesn't float, delivering one enormous calf at a time after a year and a half of pregnancy, with maybe 10 attempts in a lifetime. Under those conditions, you either evolve a society that shows up for each other, including for animals you're not related to, or you don't have descendants. They showed up. They've been showing up apparently for something like 36 million years. We just weren't in the right place with a drone until now.